Hey guys, and welcome to Start with Chika. In this video, you'll be learning how to draft the pattern to a bustier top with a yoke and a corset loop. If this is something you love to learn, please keep on watching. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so. And let's get right into this tutorial. Now, at this point, I'm drawing a straight line. This is going to be my shoulder line and my starting line. On this line, I'll take my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and then I'll just come down for my shoulder slope by 1 inch. From this corner, I'm going to mark out my neck width measurement as 3 inches. Do all of this to yours and connect to get your shoulder slope. So next, I'm going to mark out my armhole line. I'll also mark out my bust line. I'll mark out my under bust line. I will mark out my waistline and then my full length of my top, and I'll extend these lines horizontally. So now this is my shoulder, my armhole, bust, under bust, waist, and the full length of my top. You can observe that the distance between my bust and my under bust is little, and this is because my client is not busty at all, so you may have yours a little bit different from this, but the following steps align, and if there is any adjustment that you can make on yours, I'll be stating further in this video. So next, I am going to take my bust to bust measurements, which is my bust span. Nipple to nipple measurement is all the same thing. I'm marking it out on my bust, under bust, waist, and hip line. So I'll connect the points together like this. So next, I'm going to create another line. I'm going to call this line my neck depth. This line is just the part that the yoke is going to start from, okay? And I'm going to be taking that as 6 inches. I'll go ahead and extend this line like this, and I'll connect this one to meet it just like this. It's very easy, okay? So on this line now, I'm going to take my darts. On my under bust, I'll take a dart of 1/2 inch at this side and at this side. I'll do the same thing on my waistline. I'll do the same thing on my hip line, and I'll connect the points together like this. So I'm going to connect this point now to meet this one. So now what we have done here is to create a bust dart. If you are more busty, at this other side, instead of taking 1/2 inch, you can consider taking about 1.5 inches. It would really help you to package the bust very well. I'll be dropping a link in the description box on how to draft a bustier pattern. I used myself as an example in the video, so you can watch that and you'll understand this better, but I'm using this because of the size of my client's bust. Okay, so now at this upper part here, at this line that is our, let's call it our neckline point for our front, I'm going to also come out by 1/2 inch on both sides like this, and then I'll use my ruler to just connect like this. This is so that this part doesn't gape, it gives it a better curve. All right, so now this is what I have for this point. I've successfully created my bust dart. So I'll come to my armhole line and I'll take my bust measurements divided by 4. I'll just be adding only 1/2 inch to this pattern. I'll mark out the same measurement on my bust line, and then I'll come to my waistline and I'll take my waist measurement divided by 4. I'm going to measure my dart. What I have here is 1 inch. Since I took 1/2 inch on both sides, I'll replace it. Whatever I take for your darts, completely within this space you want to replace it, and then I'll add half an inch of allowance. So I'm going to connect from my waistline to my bust to my armhole line together like this. Then I'm going to come to my full length of my top. So this is around the hip point, so I'm just going to take my round hip measurements divided by 4. I'll be placing the dart of 1 inch, and I'll be adding half an inch for allowance. I'll go ahead and connect this just like this. So next I'm just going to form a neckline. To do that, I'm going to come down by half of an inch. At this point, just like you've seen, I'll use my curve to kind of create a sweetheart neckline at this point, and then I'll just complete it this way. So now what you want to do is to complete this other end by creating an armhole like this. So now once I've created my armhole, from my shoulder point here, I'm going to come in by about 3 to 3.5 inches. This is going to be for my shoulder, and then I will just connect it into my bust like this. Okay, so on this pattern I'm going to be taking a side dart. So to get your side dart, you have to take your shoulder to your waistline measurements at the front part of your body. You are going to be measuring your body. I will also be dropping a video on how to take body measurements accurately in the description box. So you take your shoulder to your waist measurement at the front part of your body, and then the shoulder to your waist measurement at the back part of your body. You minus it, whatever you have, you come to your bust line and mark that out. You usually have about 1.5 or 2 inches, but please don't do too much. Okay, if you're not sure of this and you're busty, you can use 1.5. If you're not busty, you can use 1 inch. Okay, so I'm making use of 1 inch here, and I'll connect this 1 inch into my bust like this. So I'm going to shade this part because this is a dart. I'll shade this part because it is a dart also, and I'll shade this part. And now this is basically all I have for this front pattern. Let's go ahead and cut this out. Guys, before I continue with this side, sorry I forgot that detail. This is not supposed to be very straight, so I'll come to this side here and I'll come up by 1.5 inches, and I'll just connect this with a curve like this. Alright, this is just so the side of top is not very straight. Okay, just give it a little bit of a curve. Guys, this is what I have for my front piece. Let's go ahead and cut out our back piece. So to cut out my back piece, first I'll draw a straight line. This is going to be my shoulder line. On this line, just like I did to my front. Divide your shoulder measurement by 2, get your slope of 1 inch, get your neck width measurement, your standard neck width measurement, and then connect to get your shoulder slope. From that point, mark out your armhole, mark out your bust, mark out your waist. Remember, the waist for your back is different from the waist for your front. And mark out your full length line, and then connect these lines as so. So now our shoulder, armhole, bust, waist, full length. So now on my armhole line, I'll mark out my bust measurement divided by 4, and I added just ½ inch of allowance. I'll mark out the same measurement on my bust line as so. Then I'll come to my waistline. I'll mark out my waist measurement divided by 4. I'll add ½ inch of allowance, but for that I will add 1 inch. So then I'll connect these points together like this. I'll come to my full length line, mark out my hip measurements divided by 4, and add an extra allowance of ½ inch, and I'll connect these points like this. So now for my back, I would want my corset to start from my armhole here, so I will just extend this line like this, and then the same measurement I marked on my shoulder for my front, I will just mark it out at my back too, right here. So first of all, I'm going to create my armhole for my back just like this, and then I'm going to complete my back like this. Let me make my back a little bit straight. Sorry guys, please ignore this line. I want to make my back a little bit straight and not like a Queen Anne like my front. All right, so for the back, it's going to have a corset, and I want this part to be slimmer than this part. So from this edge here, I'm coming in by 1.5 inches, and at my full length line, ½ inch, and I will just connect to give a slope like this. So now my corset is going to be within this point, and this is going to be my open back space that I will snatch a bit. All right, so remember that I added 1 inch for allowance. So what I'm going to do is that from this point now here, I'm going to take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I will get a midpoint, and then I will just draw a straight line across that point. So on both sides of my waistline, which is here and here, I went out by ½ inch, and I will just connect to get a dot like this. So to get my curve at this point, remember that on my front I came up by 2 inch at this point. I will just connect like this into my corset loop point right here. Alright guys, so this is what I have for my patterns. I did not make a sewing tutorial of the top, but then these patterns I did not add any sewing allowance, any actual sewing allowance to it. So when you're cutting out on your main fabric, you would have to add your sewing allowance to it. And then this is for the lower part, and then the upper part, the 2 pieces I have here, is for the yoke. So you can use a net fabric, whatever fabric you choose to combine this with, it is totally fine. Use this for your yoke, use whatever sleeve you find interesting. I do hope this pattern drafting tutorial is very helpful. So guys, I just realized that I did not cut out my side darts on my front piece. It is actually very easy to go about this. To do that, you simply have to tear on one side like this. You're going to tear very close to this part, but be careful not to tear it apart. If you do, please tape it back. So I'm just going to tape on it. This is what you will do to yours. It will help the cup shape form even more, and then use it to cut out on your material and your lining.